On Early Edition at 6 tonight, tears of joy and relief flooded Mount Kumgang Resort in North Korea. At long last, families separated by the Korean War get to be in the arms of their long-lost loved ones. Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych agrees to a truce with leaders of the nation's top 3 opposition parties after street violence killed 26 people and injured hundreds of others the day before. But does this truce have a short expiry date? And in sports, it will be unwise to bet against Ji-yeon in this Olympic Games, as she easily demonstrated in her short program efforts to dethrone may be futile. Plus, other updates and recaps from Sochi. Stay with us for these stories and more. It's 1 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in Sochi, and 6 on a Wednesday evening here in Seoul. Rather, Thursday, that is. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Daniel Che. It's a moment of truth for the senior citizens taking part in the much-anticipated reunion of families separated since the Korean War. And that's why we begin by zooming in on Mount Kumgang, North Korea. The two Koreas have opened their first round of reunions of families separated by the Korean War in more than 3 years. More than 80 South Koreans arrived in the north on Thursday. Some met with relatives they haven't met in more than 60 years. Our Ji-yeon reports on the highly emotional event that the participants probably feel like they've waited for all their lives.
Thank God you're still alive. These were the first words from 52-year-old South Korean Park Yang-gon as he embraced his North Korean elder brother Park Yang-soo for the first time in decades. Park Yang-gon was one of the South Korean individuals chosen to travel to North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort on Thursday to meet with long-lost family. They represent the first cross-border reunions in more than 3 years. Park's elder brother was taken to North Korea while sailing on a ship in 1972. And for more than 4 decades, his family didn't hear a single word from him until today. Leading up to Thursday's meeting, Park struggled to put his feelings into words.
My parents passed away not knowing how their son was doing. My parents couldn't tell anyone what they were really feeling. The feeling of losing your child like this isn't something one can fully comprehend.
Park and 81 others from the South are scheduled to meet with separated family members on 6 separate occasions over the next 3 days for a total of 11 hours before returning to South Korea Saturday afternoon. The second round of reunions will begin 1 day later and run through Tuesday, where 88 North Koreans will reunite with around 360 of their estranged relatives from the South. There are currently tens of thousands of South Koreans on a waiting list to meet one last time with their loved ones in the north, and hope is dwindling. Many of those seeking reunions are well into their 80s and 90s, and many more have already passed away, never getting that final chance to speak to and embrace those they love and miss the most. Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Moving away to another story, a top Chinese official who visited Pyongyang this week is scheduled to arrive in Seoul later on this Thursday, raising speculations that progress is being made in international efforts to denuclearize North Korea. An official at the South's foreign ministry confirmed Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Liu Zhenmin's 3-day visit to Seoul until Saturday, where he will meet with a number of officials here, including the chief negotiator to the six-party nuclear talks. Liu's trip to Pyongyang has been closely watched, especially since it came after the top diplomats of Beijing and Washington recently said they exchanged proposals on ways to spur the North to disarm its nuclear weapons. And whatever was discussed between the two ministers was likely relayed to Pyongyang by Liu and he is expected to give details of his North Korea trip in Seoul. And in the spirit of strengthening diplomatic and strategic ties between Seoul and Beijing, 40 Korean lawmakers left for a 4-day visit to China this Thursday morning. The parliamentary group, the largest ever from Korea to visit China, is scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Chairman of the National People's Congress Standing Committee, Zhang De-chang. In their meeting with Zhang, the Korean lawmakers plan to discuss a range of inter-Korean issues, along with ways to foster more exchanges between the two countries' parliaments. The Korean lawmakers will also visit the free trade zone in Shanghai before returning home Sunday. Seoul and Moscow are reportedly in talks to export Russian natural gas to Korea through China. In an interview with Itar-TASS news agency, Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak said exporting Russian gas to Korea was one of Moscow's major pending issues. The minister said that after Russian gas giant Gazprom assessed 2 possible routes to export gas, constructing pipes to Korea through China and under the West Sea would be more feasible than from Vladivostok and under the East Sea. He added the route is still under review as it requires cooperation from China.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by 2.
Making necessary changes in areas that refuse to open up or budge. That has been one of the many ongoing efforts by President Park Geun-hye since she took office, and it continues through 2014. She has been calling on public corporations to change their ways since the new year began to help revitalize the economy. Today, she called on ministries that oversee public institutions to take a look in the mirror. Our Connie Kim has the details.
Officials from 3 government ministries went to the presidential office of Cheongwon this morning to hand in their status reports and left with an order from the president to reassess how public institutions function in the country. President Park Geun-hye once again called on the Ministry of Strategy and Finance, the Financial Services Commission, and Korea Fair Trade Commission to look into reducing the debt of public institutions, tackling mismanagement, and increasing productivity.
단계적으로 공공기관 기능을 전면 재검토해서 핵심 업무에 역량을 집중하도록 하고 기관의 내부와 외부 모두 경쟁 원리를 적용해서 효율성을 높여가야 하겠습니다.
President Park also mentioned that acts that hurt economically weak businesses must be eradicated and asked for measures that would restore the people's trust in financial institutions after the recent leak of personal data by 3 major credit card companies. To do that, she asked that the creation of a Financial Consumer Protection Board go ahead without delay. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Japan is intensifying efforts to lobby against bills to use both the name East Sea along with Sea of Japan for the body of water between Korea and Japan after 2 lawmakers from the U.S. state of New York introduced the bills to the state legislature. The lawmakers, Toby N. Stavisky and Edward Brownstein, said they received a letter from the Japanese Consulate General in New York opposing the dual use of the name East Sea in all new school textbooks. The letter said the U.S. State Department has used the Japanese name Sea of Japan as the official name, so both names are not necessary. The lawmakers' offices also said they received about 20 emails from Japanese people protesting the bill. The lawmakers presented the bills in the 2 houses of legislature after the state of Virginia recently passed a similar bill. The United States has reiterated its calls on Korea and Japan to resolve their historical and territorial differences through dialogue. At a press briefing Wednesday, U.S. State Department spokesperson Mary Harf said Washington will encourage its 2 key regional allies to cooperate in the name of maintaining peace and stability in Northeast Asia. However, Harf refused to comment on remarks made by Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's special advisor, Ito Seiichi, who earlier this week criticized the U.S. for expressing disappointment over Abe's visit to the Yasukuni War Shrine in December. Park only said that Washington's efforts to get Seoul and Tokyo on better terms would not be swayed by such a view from a single Japanese official. The first group of survivors from the Egypt bus bombing arrived back in Korea on Wednesday, extremely tired and emotional, no doubt. 3 members of their tour group and the Egyptian bus driver were killed Sunday when a suicide bomber blew up their bus near the Egypt-Israel border. Our Kim Yeon-bin reports.
3 days after the horrifying attack on their tour bus, the first group of Korean tourists arrived back on home soil Wednesday after their ill-fated trip to Egypt. Looking exhausted, the victims underwent medical checks upon their arrival to check on their physical health and state of mind.
We did basic checkups. This included checking their body temperature and blood pressure.
The first group were the lucky ones, only suffering scratches and bruises. The mental scars, however, will not go away so easily.
I heard gunfire, so we crouched down, but smoke and fire started to break loose.
After going through immigration, the group boarded a bus bound for Jincheon, their hometown in Korea's central Chungcheongbuk-do province. The remainder of the group is due to arrive home on this Thursday. The families of the 3 Koreans who were killed are currently in Egypt and will be accompanying their bodies home soon. In the wake of the attack, the Korean government has issued a travel warning for the Sinai Peninsula and is working to find out whether there are still Korean tourists in the region. The tour group's bus was traveling from St. Catherine's Monastery, a popular tourist destination in the South Sinai, to Israel when it was attacked last Sunday. An al-Qaeda-inspired terrorist group in the region claimed responsibility for the attack and has since warned all tourists to leave the area or risk further attacks. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's Agriculture Ministry plans to ban pork imports from Poland after reports of an African swine fever case in the country. Polish authorities earlier this week confirmed that the highly contagious virus was detected in a dead wild boar near the Belarusian border. Korea's ban on pork products follows a similar move in Russia. The African swine fever virus has a very high mortality rate and has been confirmed in several Eastern European countries recently. That said, it doesn't affect humans. Korean exporters will not be negatively affected by the U.S. Federal Reserve's tapering of its stimulus measures. That was the message from the Export-Import Bank of Korea on Wednesday in a report which said the economic recovery in the United States will outpace the instability in emerging markets affected by the tapering. The bank identified those economies facing uncertainties as Turkey, Egypt, Mexico, and Indonesia, but added that they only make up about 11% of Korea's total exports. Although the value of the Korean won has fallen in recent months, the Export-Import Bank of Korea said it expects companies to benefit from it through better price competitiveness and higher profits. It's that time of our newscast again to check out the highlights and recaps from the Winter Games, plus what to expect tonight. We have our Connie Lee standing by at the Sports Center to provide us the latest. Connie, it was a late night or early morning, I suppose, for those of us in Korea who watched a figure skating short program, and it was quite a performance, especially from Korea's most celebrated winter athlete.
Yes, Daniel. Well, many of us did stay up late into the wee hours to watch our favorite figure skaters take the ice. Now, of course, there was a lot of anxiety surrounding the short program, and Korea's own Kim Yeon did not disappoint with a flawless performance. Now, her score makes her #1 in the rankings right now, but it is going to be a very close program tonight in the free skating event at midnight. Now taking a look at the top 3 contenders for the gold, Kim Yeon is in the lead, but only by a slim margin. Just 0.28 points in front of Russia's Adelina Sotnikova. And third place is Carolina Kostner from Italy, and just 0.80 points behind the lead. Now, if we take a closer look at Russia's Sotnikova. Yes, it's this girl and not Yulia Lipnitskaya that people and the media were talking about taking the lead. Lipnitskaya actually took a fall and landed her in 5th place. But here, 17-year-old Sotnikova wasn't expected to make it to the podium this year in Sochi, but she is well in contention thanks to her last night's score. Now, she won silver in the European Championships this year and actually won the gold in the Junior Championships in 2011. Now let's take a look at Italy's Carolina Kostner, who is number 3 right now. This 27-year-old has been around for a while, but yesterday she wowed the crowds with her elegance and grace. She most recently won silver in the World Championships in London last year and also gold in the European Championships. Now to Korea's Queen of Ice, Kim Yeon. 23-year-old Kim will try to defend her Olympic gold tonight, and if she does, she'll become the 3rd woman to win consecutive Olympic gold medals. And hopefully she won't be as nervous as she was last night for today's final show. So Korea could possibly see a new medal later tonight, and we'll all look forward to that. But now let's move on to another group of ladies who are celebrating their hard-fought models. In the 2-man women's bobsleigh event on Wednesday, the Canadian duo of Heather Moyes and Kaylee Humphries are once again queens of Olympic women's bobsledding. Now, Canada won this event at the 2010 Vancouver Games, and they did it again here at Sochi. Now, this win actually didn't come until after the 4th and final run, when the American duo of Lauren Williams and Alana Myers lost the top spot by 1/10 of a second. Now, they won the silver, and their U.S. teammates took home the bronze. So with the Olympics, we always have the big wins, like the bobsleigh event, and also some big losses. But big loss probably feels like an understatement for fans who are upset today over Russia's elimination in ice hockey, or the country's national sport. Now, on home territory on Wednesday, Russia lost to Finland 3-1 in the men's quarterfinals. This means they were out even before the medal rounds. Now, there was a lot of expectations from Russian fans and even from the Russian president, who were hoping that the country would bag a gold medal this year. You know, Russia hasn't won a gold in ice hockey since 1992. So fans thought this year was a chance to break that streak, but alas, maybe next time. And with that, let's take a look at the current medal standings. Now, Norway has moved up the ranks to the #1 position with a total of 9 gold medals. Germany has fallen to the #2 spot, and USA is at #3 with a total of 23 Olympic medals, the most so far. Russia and the Netherlands round out the top 5, and Korea, you see down there, has fallen to 16th place with its 2 gold medals. And that's it for the medal rankings. Now let's get a quick look at the upcoming schedule. That's all I have for now on the Olympics. Daniel, back to you.
Well, thank you for that, Connie. Keep those updates coming. That was our Connie Lee reporting on the updates from Sochi. The historical and territorial differences that divide Korea and Japan are very clear to those at the center. But to the outside world, the disputes may be confusing and the emotion underestimated. To give the international community a better understanding of where Korea is coming from, the government and civic groups are attempting to improve Korea's brand image. Our Kwon So-hwa has this report.
Hundreds of people, mainly students, gathered Wednesday at the opening of the exhibition Brand Image Up, hosted by Yonhap News Agency and the Voluntary Agency Network of Korea, or VANK. The so-called cyber diplomatic organization uses its time promoting the country and improving Korea's brand image globally. They focus on reporting the truth about issues like Japan's claims to Korea's Dokdo Island, the naming of the East Sea, and the women forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military during World War II.
As I'm Korean, I want other people, not even South Korean, but other foreigners to know what is right about South Korea, and that's what I'm volunteering for.
I believe that informing foreigners about our country is the best way to improve Korea's status.
Park Gi-tae, the founder of VANK, which has 12,000 members, says his dream to give the world a better understanding of Korea began with a pen pal letter. One of Park's foreign friends told him that maps abroad identify Korea's East Sea as the Sea of Japan and refer to Korea's Dokdo Island by what the Japanese call it Takeshima.
So I've been upset. So I sent email. This is wrong. Sea of Japan is wrong. Takeshima is wrong. It's Dokdo and East Sea.
To bring about change, VANK began to send letters to foreign media outlets and foreign governments asking that they change their textbooks and maps. Korean singer Kim Jang-hoon, who is a member of VANK, expressed his thoughts on improving Korea's brand image.
Although I am a singer, I founded a website called truthoftokdo.com and also an application. We shouldn't fight with foreigners about Dokdo, but prove it in a logical way by showing them evidence.
The exhibition runs through February 25th at the National Museum of Korea, aiming to spread the idea that all Koreans are ambassadors representing their nation. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
The truce in Ukraine didn't last very long. Just hours after President Viktor Yanukovych announced that he and opposition leaders had come to an agreement to end unrest in the country, new street clashes erupted. Shin Se-min has the latest.
The truce didn't even last a day. Just within the last hour, new street clashes erupted in Kiev's Independence Square, this after embattled President Viktor Yanukovych announced that he had agreed to a truce with leaders of the nation's top three opposition parties Wednesday evening. The cause of the unrest is believed to be linked to the protesters' distrust of the government and comes as the foreign ministers of France, Germany, and Poland are scheduled to arrive in Ukraine Thursday to meet with Yanukovych and opposition leaders. On his official website Wednesday, Yanukovych said his administration and the opposition had agreed to negotiate to end the bloodshed and stabilize the situation in the interests of social peace, after the street violence killed at least 26 people and injured hundreds of others on Tuesday. The government and opposition had held talks before, as recently as last week when protesters agreed to clear out of City Hall and downtown streets. The unrest has caught the attention of the international community.
The United States condemns in strongest terms the violence that's taking place there.
I'd like once again to underline the seriousness of the Ukrainian situation and remind you we have decided regarding tomorrow's meeting of foreign affairs ministers.
In another development, Yanukovych fired his army chief Wednesday as thousands of opposition protesters blocked barricades in the capital and the military announced a nationwide strike. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Time now to get a check on the weather forecast with our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle, we've been having some fairly warm weather in Korea, and the same goes for Sochi.
That's right, Daniel. The temperature seems to go up a little more each day at the host city of the Olympics.
Which is never good news for the athletes. How are things looking for tomorrow, hopefully, in Sochi?
It's going to be a warm day with periods of rain with a high of 14 degrees, which really isn't good news for the snow. And plus, it's going to be a windy as well. And now the updates for Korea. We are expecting snow at Mount Kumgang tonight, which will continue throughout tomorrow. Other regions can actually expect a mild day with some clouds in the afternoon. Now going over to our readings, we have a fairly nice day tomorrow with Seoul starting off the morning at -4 degrees and getting up to 7 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will get up both at 10 degrees. Now down on Jeju Island, it's finally sunny with a high of 8. Daejeon will also get up to 8. Dokdo should peak at 1 and Mount Kumgang's chilly at -2. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park again. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And that wraps up the news for this hour. Thank you for staying with us. This has been Daniel Che. Have a great rest of the evening.